you want to experience your life. And so when we get the thing that we want, and then we're required to shift into our focus into the new reality of what the thing is that we want. All this kind of crap comes up, right? Because the work doesn't stop. The work really never stops. And I don't really even like to call it work, because it's really an act of love for yourself to be willing to do this for yourself, to get a hold and get control of your thoughts. But when we get the thing that we want, we have to shift what we're focusing on now, right? We start to tell ourselves new stories about the new future that we're creating. So I want to give you some examples of how this, like how my mind and other people, other friends who've experienced this too, like how our mind wants to then, once we get the thing, that it wants to talk us out of it. It tells us we can't have it, or tells us that we're not good enough. And one of the habits that my mind likes to get into is likes to tell me that I'm making it up, like, or that the situation isn't real. Like each morning, like waking up, like telling myself that, yes, I'm engaged now. Yes, this is real. Like, yes, we've experienced this, right? Like for me, my mind wants to pretend it isn't real and that I made it up. Now I have other friends who feel like, one of my friends went through this whole process. I talked with her at length about this, and she bought a house, a huge house, wonderful, lovely, like awesome house that she wanted. But it was uncomfortable because she was moving out of her current comfort zone of staying small, in financially, maybe, even though they could afford it. And she was staying small in what she thought people thought she should live in, or what her family thought she should live in, right? And her fear was that somebody was going to come to her door and knock on the door and tell her that she didn't belong there, that she couldn't live in this house, right? That it wasn't hers, that for whatever reason, like that was the story that her mind made up, is that she couldn't live in this house, when everything else was like, yeah, I actually live in this house. I bought this house. I can pay for this house. Buying this house worked out perfectly for us, right? All these things lined up. But her mind wanted to tell her after that she couldn't live there, which is crazy. These things that our mind does, right? And another friend of mine, she started her own business, and similar thing, really wanted this, right? Wanted to go out on her own. And she told me that every day she drives to work, she still looks to make sure that her sign is up, because she's afraid somebody's going to come and take her sign down, because she feels like maybe she's not a real business owner, or that somebody's going to come in and tell her she needs to do it some different way. Even though she's extremely successful and she has clients booked out for months, she still has this fear that somebody's going to come and take her sign down, because she has some, subconscious belief that she's not a real business owner, like whatever real means. I'm putting it in air quotes if you're listening. So I'm telling you this part of the story too, because once we talk a lot about how we get what we want, but on the other side of it, when we do actually get the thing that we want, it requires another reset, an internal reset and refocusing on, okay, now that I have this thing, now what do I focus on? I want to focus on how I want to feel having this thing. I want to focus on the excitement of what this thing is going to bring to me, whatever it is for you. And if you're experiencing this, or if you have experienced this, where your mind is then, once you get the thing that you want, your mind is trying to tell you that you can't have it, that you're making it up, that someone's going to come knock on your door and tell you you can't live there, or that someone's going to come and take your sign down because you're not a real business owner. All of these things are normal. I want you to know that all of those feelings are normal, but those feelings, those thoughts are not true. They're not real. They're not true. And a really good question to ask yourself is, whose voice is saying that anyway? Is that actually my voice? Or is it the voice that I worry about my parents saying to me, or my other friends, or other people from my past, right? Whose voice is actually saying those things? And often it's not even our own, but yet that voice is the one that's running the show and wanting to like pick us apart and tell us that we can't have the thing that we want. So my intention with this episode, like I said, was to talk again about changing our focus to what we want, like really reminding you of that, of spending the time and the effort and loving yourself enough to do that, to spend some focused time on what it is you want. And then once you get the thing that you want, be prepared for those terrible thoughts to come up and all the ways that your mind wants to tell you you can't have it. Those things aren't true. You don't have to believe them. But what I have found is helpful is, once I get the thing, then I need just a recalibration or a reset of how I'm going to focus on things. And it's really making up, it's really thinking of that new script for yourself of, okay, now that I have the thing, here's how I'm going to experience this. Here's what I'm going to get from this. Here's how my life is going to be so much better because of this. So if you need help with this, you can always go to my website, createwhatyouspeak.com. That's a Create What You Speak Academy. I have a whole course on this called the BS Method. And you can also find that at thebsmethod.com. And it stands for the Better Stories Method. And what I do in this course is I teach you how to tell yourself a better story in 5 minutes or less. I have tons of scripts for you in this course. I have tons of ways that you can really start to shift your mind. And what I have found and what has worked for me and worked for others is when we have these scripts already ready, then it's really easy to go to. It's really easy to go to the positive stories instead of letting ourselves spin for hours or weeks or months in the negative, right? If you already have the positive story to go to, you can instantly switch to that. And then you're on the right track, right? You're telling yourself the more positive story than letting yourself dwell in the negative. So I hope this helped you this week. I hope it helps give you a different perspective. I hope you can think a little bit differently about getting things that you want. And then when you actually get the thing, how you can step up to yourself and claim that thing, like stand in your own power of, yeah, I did this. Like I manifested this awesome thing that I want. And now I get to stand in my power about it. And I get to actually experience myself with this new thing from this place of empowerment and happiness and pure joy. So that's my intention for you this week. I hope that this helps. I hope you have maybe some different ideas or different thoughts after this episode. And if you have any comments or any questions for me, I would love to hear from you. You can send me an email at sloanfremont@pm.me. I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about any other questions on any of the upcoming episodes. And also my email is in the show notes. All you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of this audio or video to find that. All right, you've been listening to the Create What You Speak podcast, brought to you by webtalkradio.net. You can also hear the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcasting platform. I'm Sloan Fremont, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode of the Create What You Speak podcast, where we will continue to free our minds, expand our consciousness, and untangle those thoughts and patterns that keep us from living the life we desire. Check out my website, sloanfremont.com, to learn more.